Working in retail has given me a great deal of stories over the years. One experience involved my boss, Mr. Havistock, having to go at me for not giving him the correct amount of clubs to sell for the Fushton crime family, whom Havistock was associate of. And it rather involved me beating up an old lady who wanted to buy a sofa for her grandson. I had gone to school with her grandson, and he was a prick. Anyways, one winter's day near Christmas, while I was busy trying to sell, not to this sofa to an ugly looking barnacle faced rat, I was pulled away by my coworker and rival, Dermont. Dermont wanted me to show me something in the employee break room. Dermont was my arch nemesis. He was so much cooler. He also was much better with ladies than me. He had about 69 partners, including an undercover lover who once ate eggs with the Shatter Reader in Beaver's Pass. Ever been there? I have, and it was pretty shit, not gonna lie. Even though Dermont worked in retail, was just this part-time job for the Christmas holidays. His real work was Prime Minister Ray Manuel's right-hand man, personal assistant, and personal driver. Manos was on the holiday for Christmas season, so Dermont got himself a part-time job here for the time being. Anyways, me and Dermont got inside the break room, and he had given me a plate with nothing on it. "What's this?" I asked, as Dermont took the plate out of his hands and said, "I'd like to lick the plate for ya." He then proceeded to lick the plate for about 3 hours. Yeah, Dermont is a weird guy. Don't judge his mother for used to take him to eat soup with a fork. A fork? What is this world coming to? After 3 hours, I attempted to make my leave only for Dermont to stop me. "Not so fast. I got a little prissy for you, Gary," Dermont said, as he pulled out a DVD shaped in an item wrapped in a Christmas wrapping paper from behind his back. "Wow, gee, thanks, Dermont," I exclaimed happily, while taking the present out of Dermont's hands. "Don't open it until Christmas Day," Dermont warned me, as we began to make our leave out of the break room. Christmas was only 3 days away, so it wasn't really a big of a wait at all or anything. After waiting for leaving the break room, me and Dermont proceeded to get lectured by Mr. Havistock, who hated us because we smelled like cheese and onion crisps. "You need to be selling our stock, not selling prissies," yelled angrily. It was so loud it actually made me shit myself. Luckily, I had brought an extra pair of work that day, in case if something happened. The next 2 days went by quickly, with me selling as much stock as I could. Not even Dermont could keep up with the amount of things I was selling. I even managed to sell a smelly fish to a doopy dog who yelled, "Lake Dynasty Daho." "What?" I asked, confused as Doopy the dog began dancing. "Don't tell me you don't remember Hi Dad Soup?" he asked, as Mr. Havistock enforcer proceeded to throw him out of the store. That evening I was getting ready to go home when Dermont stopped me. "Hey Gary, looking forward to Christmas tomorrow?" Dermont asked, when I replied with, "Not really, Christmas is rather smelly. I think Scrooge had it right, you know." Well before he lost all of his money by trying to help Tiny Tim to get into Fordham University. Dermont then looked at me puzzled for about 69 seconds, before saying, you haven't forgot about the present I gave you yet, Gary?" "Of course I haven't. What's that about anyway?" I asked. Dermont then pulled a really smelly face and began licking the plate from earlier again. "I told you he was a weird man, didn't I, dear reader?" "Oh, shut up. I bet you're weird too. We all are, after all." Dermont stopped licking the plate and then proceeded to look at me dead into the eyes before saying, "It's a surprise. If I told you then, it wouldn't be a surprise now, would it, love?" "No, I suppose not," I said. Dermont then began to make his leave out of the building into the snowy streets of London. "And Gary," Dermont said, before continuing with, "I'll be calling you tomorrow night around 6 or 7. See how it is." With that, Dermont got into a small black car, which quickly drove off into the distance. I couldn't be so sure, but the driver did look like a bit of a district attorney, Donald Slandler. I slept easily through the night due to my lover George putting rotten eggs in my coffee. "I'd like to see you wake up to against the wall, Gary," George said, as I was busy preparing the turkey for Christmas dinner. "Not now, George. I got to get this turkey ready before the DA gets here. He might offer me a job as an assistant DA. I'd had been applying for a new job over 3 months now, and I finally landed in an interview for the position of the Assistant District Attorney of London." I began dusting my plants as George asked if we should open our presents yet. I decided against my better judgment that we should open the presents and finish off the rest off by cooking afterwards. So me and George then each took turns opening presents. I had gotten George a really weird outfit. Only joking. I only got him a Backyardigans Backyard Adventures complete series, one on Blu-ray from the DVD store, and a couple of blocks down the road from my flat. George, meanwhile, had gotten me a picture of him making something with a duck. Yep, not even joking on that one. The rest of the presents was just normal boring stuff like clothes, chocolate, and a Rap Rat action figure. You know, the some things that people normally get on Christmas Day. So I was tidying up the discarded wrapping on the floor. George noticed a present which I had not been opened yet. "Gary, this one's for you," George said happily as he handed me the present. We had a rough steamy pancake making sections arranged for this summer, if you were wondering. Anyways, I unwrapped the present and saw it was a DVD for the Garfield show. What?" I asked, confused as confused man often does when confused about something confusing, which confuses him. George then took the DVD out of my hands and began sniffing it. It smelled really bad. It smelled like dog poop mixed with the Shadow Reader's homemade otter sauce underneath it in the house of South City. George's nose nearly fell off as he proclaimed, "Oh I love Garfield show. Can we watch it, Gary? Can we?" I reluctantly agreed as George made his way over to the TV and placed the disc into the DVD player. As he did this, I picked up the DVD and glanced it over. The DVD was called Garfield Show Vito's Revenge, and the cover had a picture of Garfield getting chased down a lot by the enemies, including Normal, Herman Post, Elle and Pete, and even Vito for some strange reason. I found this odd as Vito was one of Garfield's allies in the show. Or so I thought. Dun dun dun. Oh, on the back of the case was completely blank in the case, if you were wondering, dear reader. Me and George then made ourselves comfy in the living room floor next to the Christmas tree made of dog crap as some commercials began to play. They went very weird to say the least. One of the commercials had a bulldog factory worker asked if we was working the night. "Not tonight, it's Christmas Eve," the dog said, in the most dumb voice I ever heard. And another had Peter Griffin from Family Guy fighting Pablo from the Backyardigans. After the commercials ended, the main menu appeared. It was nothing special really. It was just a picture of Garfield staring at the screen with a weird face. There was only one option which read Play Episode. I clicked it and the episode began with the normal theme song. The intro was odd to say the very least. Well, for starters, Garfield looked even fatter than normal and also never bothered to hit his alarm clock off beside the table like he normally does. Also, during the part where Garfield sits on the couch, John and Odie did not appear behind him. Instead, General Asquith appeared behind him. Weird, I thought to myself. So the episode then began with the main title card which read Vito's Revenge. And I'll just show Vito chasing Garfield was it holding a rolling pin up in the air. The episode said it was written by Ray Mannels and General Asquith, which I thought it was strange. Even stranger than Stranger Things. This story is actually sponsored by Stranger Things. Ha, only joking, you sexy reader, you. Following the title card, the episode began with John pulling up outside of Vito's pizzeria with Garfield and Odie sitting on the back seat of his car. "Right, you two, I want you to be on your best behavior today, especially you, Garfield," John said, as Garfield responded with, "Ah, screw you." I then ended up shoving George's head up my butt and then pooping it out. What the heck, did Garfield just swear? How dare he swear? This is a good children's show, you stupid orange cat. The trio then entered the pizzeria, where Vito was busy sticking some pizza bases into a large oven. Suddenly, a roll from Ed, Ed, and Eddie appeared in the oven saying, "Hello, Ed, boys." Vito didn't seem to notice this and pulled out the pizzas from the oven. He began to place the toppings onto them, which caused Garfield to leap forwards towards the table in hunger. "Garfield, no!" John cried out in slow motion. But it was too late, as Garfield's actions caused Vito to fall backwards onto the pizza oven. "Oh dear, that's not good," Garfield said, while proceeding to dig into the pizza, completely ignoring the fact that he possibly murdered Vito. Then the scene then transitioned to the Arbuckle household, where John was having a cup of tea with Professor Bonkers. "So, can you really bring him back, Professor?" John asked, which the Bonkers replied with, "Does the Shadow Reader like smelly onion rings? Of course I can bring him back, Arbuckle." Bonkers then explained to John of what he would be using in his garage as his base of operations for time, like some sort of Rick's Sanshits. In the garage, Bonkers began welding some weird machines together and began jamming them into Vito's completely burnt corpse. Later, Bonkers came into the living room, where John was waiting for him, along with Garfield and Odie. "Say hello to your new improved Vito," Bonkers then proclaimed, as the now cyborg version of Vito entered the living room. "So Garfield, you'll kill me over some pizzas, and you? Well, this time you aren't getting away so easily," Vito said in his new electronic voice as he proceeded to strangle Bonkers to death. I laughed. "I'm a sick man, don't judge me." So then Vito left the room with this new cyborg body and went to a nearby phone booth where he made some phone calls. He first called Normal, and then he called Herman Post, and lastly Elle and Pete, who refused to take part of it due to them starring in a BBC drama with Christopher Elkison and Christopher Walking, who was walking his dog. Vito arranged to meet with his cohorts Normal and Herman in his pizzeria after closing. At the pizzeria, the trio discussed about the ultimate plan to get rid of Garfield. "We give him so much food that he blows up like a bomb," Vito proclaimed happily. "Yep, then we feed his smelly corpses to the dogs," Normal said evilly. Herman, who is now voiced by Matt Berry for some strange reason, yelled, "I could really use a potty break!" The episode then cut to black and then came back to the show with the time title card, which read 1 week later. Garfield and Odie were pestering John for food, well, mainly Garfield, as Odie was dead for some reason. It's shown a flashback that Odie chased a butterfly through the parks, where he ended up getting stopped on by Willie the Giant. Garfield finally got John's attention, who agreed to take him to Vito's pizzeria, despite the fact that it's obviously grilled. No, but in reality, he took Garfield back to where he thought he clearly saw Vito murder Professor Bonkers in cold blood not even that long ago. Like, seriously, why the hell would you even go back there, John, you Arbuckle? At Vito's pizzeria, Garfield then tried to apologize, only for Vito to have thrown a humongous platter of food onto the table in front of him. "Ah, shove it down, you donkey," Vito said. So Garfield ate and ate until his belly grew too large. "No more, I can't handle another bite," Garfield said, as his face turned green, looking like he was going to throw up all over the carpet. At the very moment, Normal and Herman came in, holding a large chocolate cake the size of the Empire State Building. "Oh God," Garfield said, as he reluctantly ate the cake in one bite and ended up vomiting all over the pizzeria, drowning Normal and Herman in the process. Vito and John had managed to escape just in time. You see, John had secretly been conspiring with Vito due to them being lovers and the run ever since Series 1, Episode 2 of Shrek the Halls. A time card then came up with the screen which read 10 years later, and it was read by the French narrator from SpongeBob SquarePants for some strange reasons. It then showed that after the incident at Vito's pizzeria, Garfield had become a changed cat. He now owned a very own gym where he helped other cats lose weight, like Fluffykins. John ended up marrying Vito, and Herman, who had survived the vomit ordeal, somehow ended up fulfilling his long life dream of plowing at the girl that he met on holiday day 2 years prior. He was perverted the last time his boss, who had a real craze for him. Vito also explained that Garfield, the plan was to never indeed kill Garfield, but was to lead to believe, but rather exchange to Garfield's greasy ways and make him realize that life is what always worth for a living as long as you have enough rubies, and that was truly beautiful. The end credits didn't appear, instead, straight back out to the main menu, which had changed, and now it showed Rap Rat staring at the screen with a smelly look on his face. In the background, a man could be seen on the TV is on, where there's now another option aside from play episode, which read Meeting of the Syndicate. Now, curious, I clicked on it, and I was treated with a video of some man sitting at the table, discussing something with Rabe Mannels, who sat on the very center of the table. Gentlemen, this Archie commenter is the latest person to join our little group, Mannels said, while showing off and promoted Police Commander Archie Cloymeyer to the rest of the people at the table. And I recognized all the people at the table. There were Bishop Leonard Buran and his PA father Jessup, Governor Phil Green, and wealthy businessman Victor Kennedy, District Attorney Donald Sandler, and General R. Asquith. Dermont was also there, and stood proudly at Manuel's side. So, how is your newest Lost episode selling, Rabe? It was definitely, this time again, a Garfield show Lost episode? Green asked, confused, while smoking from a cigar that he was made out of cheese. I can't throw them out fast at Phil. They're selling like hotcakes. Manuels then explained as Sandler responded with, but that's part of the problem, Rabe. They sell too many of these things at one time and people might begin asking questions. Washington's full of complaints from the UN is enough as it is. Oh, shut the front door, Donald, Rabe said, as Donald did what he was told, and shut the front door, which was the beginning of the let the draft in. Manuels then sighed heavily before saying, this Lost episode is going to bring a lot of money into my pocket, boys. I could feel it. Briannan then got an offended look and said, I hope you mean all your pockets, Rabe, because we are all the members of your group after all. Even Dermont and my PA should be getting at least 10 grand apiece. Of course, Len, of course, Rabe said. Then he turned to face Dermont. So did you manage to sell that prick Gary that DVD? Yep. I popping around on this day, Christmas Day around 6, Dermont said happily, while eating a big handful of chips, doused in the Shadow Reader's homemade otter sauce. Very good, Manuel said evilly. So when will the freeway be spotted? Did Dill pick Phil? Manuel then asked, which Green responded with, it still has to be approved by the United Nations. That takes a long time to raise 3 million bitcoins. Yeah, but that idiot will approve of anything that gives him more money, Sandler said, before continuing. And soon his country and the rest of the world will be ours. Then the clip ended and I made the phone call to Dermont, but there was no answer. Dermont ended up calling me back an hour later. In that time, I had to put George to bed and had completely gone off cooking Christmas dinner. I had bought myself a small ready meal from Tesco. Yes, Tesco was still open on Christmas Day because they are sick peoples. Upon placing the phone to my huge-ass ear, I heard Dermont greet me in a smelly voice. He had clearly been licking the plates again, and I was just about to head over to your flat. So, did you watch my DVD? Dermont asked, confused as I responded with, yeah, I did. It was great. But Dermont, I have a question for you. Yeah, sure, Gary. Go right ahead, Dermont said, as I can hear his undercover lover talking shit in the background. What do you and Ray Bandos know about this little syndicate? I asked. As the phone went dead silent for a moment, Dermot then spoke up sheepishly and said, "Gary, listen to me very closely. Get out of town now or you're a dead man." "I was only doing my job and didn't mean to get you involved in anything," Dermot said. And with that, he hung up on me. I did try to call him back a few times after that, but each time I got no answer. Over the rest of Christmas Day, I searched on Google about Rabe Mannels, and it was supposed to be a syndicate, but I learned about Rabe investing money in the local church, which was owned by Brennan, and then I learned about his investments in Victor Kennedy's numerous business projects. While on Google, I came across a post which talked about a mysterious man named Rabe Mannels, and the post that says that if you've seen him, then go to his address. I shall not tell you the address just for the sake of the person's privacy. 3 days later, George gave me a lift to this mysterious house in Yorkshire Hills, where the Auntie Pesca once did work for Barry Scott and his gang. At the house, I was let in by the man who looked like he was in his late 20s or early 30s, going by the name of Matthew Williams. "So Gary, what exactly did Manuels then and his friends talk about this episode?" Williams asked, as he led me to the living room. "They were talking about some freeway getting spotted, and whatever that means," I said. I then sat down on the sofa across the room. I could see he's some guy wearing sunglasses trying to ring someone on a telephone. It was the BC Network. "Skyrunner," BC Network yelled, before continuing with, "Tell Shadow that Luca Barsi is still not answering his phone. Maybe he's the rat." So this called Skyrunner came in holding a cup of tea and said I doubt about Luca as he was loyal. The Shadow Reader was the only thing that he believed in, and the only thing he feared was his money on Richard Fatchett being the rat. "Well, maybe he got taken by surprise," I said, while making myself a cup of tea, like I owned a place. I did pay for the mortgage on the house, and after all that, thanks to my sweet car insurance. "Is Luca that tough that they say? Is he that good?" BC Network asked. Skyrunner, who nodded before saying, "He's a class by himself. Shadow's gonna send him after Rabe's inner circle." After explaining on who I was rating the story, Skyrunner and BC Network proceeded to lecture on who they were and shit. They were a part of the syndicate known to be Lost Episode Resistance, which are pledged to be cleaning from the world's type of lost media. Their number one enemy was Rabe Mannels, Luca Barsi, the Shadow Reader's personal enforcer. He had not been heard since last night. A bad sign. Yet, Skyrunner nor BC Network could believe that Luca had either been taken by surprise or turned traitor. They had been calling his home all day, and even called the apartment complex, but they claimed to not have seen him since the night before. So where was Luca Barsi? There was definitely, however, suspicion that one of the members of the residents, the informant of their manuals, they seemed to have always take the upper hand on them. Shadow Lioness entered the living room with tears rolling down her face. "Guys, I have bad news. Shadow has been shot." Shadow had just finished reading his paper for the day when Tyler came in and said, "Hey Shads, your car is outside. I'll have to drive you though. Nettie's sick again. Probably busy having another phone call to Rarity." Shadow then said before continuing with, "By the way, anyone from Luca since last night?" Tyler shook his head and helped Shadow get on his long bulky overcoat on. Shadow and his friend got themselves inside the car and made their way downtown, where Shadow requested to go and get some homemade otter sauce from the local vendor that looked like Rolf from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Shadow began buying the sauce with all of a sudden, the incredibly tall man wearing long, bulky overalls appeared on the scene. They started running towards Shadow and revealed themselves to be carrying handguns. Shadow reached instantly by flying towards the car. Tyler! Shadow called out, but it was far too late as the two gunmen managed to get 5 bullets in Shadow's butt. The shots didn't kill Shadow, however, but he fell into the ground in pain. Tyler got out of the car with a shotgun and by then the two gunmen had already completely disappeared down the street. Dorman Moldover, who was passing by, ended up giving the chase to the two gunmen, while Tyler cradled Shadow, who lied there motionless. Police cruisers and ambulance then appeared on the scene, and the cops then tried their best to remove Tyler, but he just wouldn't budge. Shadow was bleeding terribly, and his body slumped over the pavement. His last breath before passing out, Shadow said to Tyler, "I need a tailor." And then some of that evening, after they're reading the newspaper, Skyrunner received a phone call from Sam and Max, who had explained that Shadow had just had 2 hours prior. "Is he dead?" Skyrunner had asked, but Sam responded with, He won't, Sky. He's just been taken to the hospital, but only time will tell." After receiving that phone call, Skyrunner walked past Gary and BC and brought out Shadow's paperwork from the safe. And far from the room, he opened up the book and dialed Luxurious Marmite's number and asked them to come up to the house with the entire regime. "But, what about Richard Fatchett and Nettie?" Luxurious then asked, which Skyrunner responded with, "Nah, I don't want to use them right now." "Oh," Marmite said, as the phone call ended to abrupt end. Skyrunner then forced BC Network and Gary to set things up for Marmite's arrival, and gave Luca Barcy's number another call, but again there's no answer. Skyrunner then put it out of his mind, and Luca would have to come straight to the house, where he would hear the news, with Shadow coming out of commission. That made him act a boss, and in less than an hour the house would be filled with resident members, and Skyrunner would be forced to break the news and give the orders. He would have no doubt in his mind that Rabe Manuels was behind it, and he wouldn't have done it such a task if he didn't even support someone high and almighty. Still, Rabe, no matter what, of how powerful the connections may be, would stand no chance against the resistance. With Luca Barcy and the result sources of the residents, there can only be one outcome. He dialed Luca Barcy's number again, and pulled the phone to his ear, and heard the phone on the other end ring and ring, but no one answered. And that, my little pretties, was Vito's Revenge, a Garfield Show Lost Episode Creepypasta written by Matthew Bumford. My final thoughts on this story? This is actually something I've been kind of wanting to, sit there and, narrate for a while, because I kind of remember I did come across this story about maybe 2019 or something. I don't remember when the last time I came across this story, but I do remember coming across it at one point. And there's the author's note, which I have read. So this story is a funny pasta, and it's not meant to be taken seriously. So, I mean, I'm gonna definitely say this now. Most funny pastas, don't make a whole lot of sense. And I mean, that's understandable. I mean, this one manages to handle it, the subject matters of, what's going on with the episodes and all that very well. Like, I mean, seeing Garfield, doing like some goofy stuff, and he, gets so fat that he ends up puking out. I'm surprised he didn't explode like a bomb. Like, I was kind of expecting that to happen, but for some reason, I didn't see that happening. I don't really know why, but for some reason, I didn't see that happening. But I definitely would have to say that this actually was not a bad story, to be honest. I mean, it's a pretty good pasta for what it is. Like I said, the grammar and all that was pretty good, as well as the sentence structuring, the storyline. And I think it's a really funny creepypasta. It was definitely enjoyable, definitely well made in detail, and I honestly really enjoyed how I enjoyed of how funny this story was. So I'm not denying that one bit. It's a really funny story. It's definitely well made, and it's definitely worth to check out. I mean, this is actually a pretty funny pasta. I know this story didn't really make a whole lot of sense at times, but this story was honestly pretty funny, and I still really find this story to be rather good in a matter of sense. I mean, yeah, Matthew Bumford, you did awesome with this story. I'm not denying that one bit. This story was flat out amazing. I really enjoyed this story, in my opinion. I mean, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now that this is my own opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. Like, if you don't like this story, I respect your opinion, and if you like this story, that's perfectly fine with me because I respect your opinion on this story, and we're all entitled to our own opinions. So, my final rating of the story of this funny pasta is a 10 out of 10. Pretty good. It was really funny. It was definitely worth it, and there's definitely a lot of time and effort into the story. And I will have to say, I found this story to be, enjoyable. And to be honest, Matthew Bumford, this story was awesome. Really good, really well made, and I know it has been a while since I last narrated one of your funny pastas, so I guess this is the first funny pasta of 2022 of yours that I've read, because I've read most of yours back, last year as well as 2020. So, well, I started reading his stories back in 2019, but that's way back. So, anyways, what did you guys think about this funny pasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.